So I'm sure you've all seen the new Batman trailer. It looks fucking amazing. And yeah, I know the movie's not going to be released for a good while, and I'm just sat here counting down the days. But to celebrate the release of the trailer, what I thought I'd do is I'd do a list. Now, what is the greatest part about Batman? Is it some of the one-liners he has?
What would you call that? Damn good television.
Is it how good he is at fighting? Is it the fact that he's just a rich, lonely bloke with too much time? If you answered any of those, you're fucking wrong, mate. Because the best thing about Batman is the Joker. And the Joker, like Batman, has had many adaptations. He's been in comic books, he's been in animations, but to save time, we're just going to talk about the live action Jokers. Now, throughout the lifespan of TV and cinema, the Joker has had many incarnations. The first being Cesar Romero's early in the 70s, and now, the most recent Joker, Joaquin Phoenix. So what I thought I'd do is I'd go through all of these Jokers one by one, in order from oldest to newest, and rank them on three things: appearance, performance, and plot progression. So obviously appearance refers to how the Joker looks, whether they've got a really complex face mask going, or they've just got a bit of smudged makeup, or whether they have ridiculously stupid tattoos plastered all over their face. Performance obviously relates to how well the actor did as the character of the Joker, and plot progression refers to how the character as the Joker in that movie progresses the movie's plot along. So the first Joker in any sort of live action show was Cesar Romero. Now, Cesar Romero was in a TV show called The Batman, and it ran in the 70s and 80s. Now, one thing important to know here is this isn't really like a dramatic show like the movies we're associated with the Joker now. It was more slapstick and comical. There was no real plot to any of the episodes. It was just kind of the Joker doing things, blah blah blah. Also, during this time, it's important to note that it was frowned upon for there to be violence in TV. So most of the things that the Joker would do would be very minor, and if there was to be serious things, it wouldn't come across in a series where it would be played off in sort of a light-hearted tone. Really, it was more comic-y, most of the movies that we associate with the Joker now. For that reason, that there's really not much plot progression within the show. The character of the Joker sort of just does bad things, and then the Joker catches him and puts him in prison, and then he escapes, and it's just sort of the running cycle. So whilst he's very important to the show, he isn't as serious and as menacing as many of the other shows, which I think takes away from some of the elements of the character. So for the plot progression point, I'll give him a 3 out of 5, because he's very important for Batman. You need to catch him, but it's just sort of a repetitive nature. If he does something bad, the Batman catches him, and it repeats over and over again. The next element, of course, is performance. Now, Cesar Romero does an adequate job as the Joker. He has the voice, he does the laugh, he's got some good physical traits to him. I mean, he's not up there with other performers on this list, but I think he does a decent job, so I'll give him a 3 out of 5 again for performance. Finally, there is appearance. Now, personally, I think that Cesar Romero's Joker looks pretty bland, just got a white face and a bit of red makeup. I mean, that's nothing unusual, but when you look at someone like Heath Ledger, he's got the real smudged makeup look, and you can see the makeup on his hands, showing that he's done it himself. Whereas Cesar Romero just sort of always has. There's no real texture to it, it's just sort of white. So for appearance, I'll give him a 2. That rounds up to a total of 8 out of 15, which is sort of like an average, and we're going to sort of use this result as a benchmark for the other Jokers that come on later. So the next Joker to appear in chronological order is Jack Nicholson. Now, Jack Nicholson appeared in the movie Batman, which came out in 1989, directed by Tim Burton. It's actually a very big movie in terms of the whole superhero scene, because nobody had really directed a dark superhero movie before, and this Batman film was dark. I mean, there's plenty of wrong with it, namely the fact that Batman is a fucking psychopath in the movie who goes around and blowing up and killing people left and right. But we're not here to talk about Batman, however much I'd enjoy it. We're here to talk about the Joker. And the Joker in this movie is very good, I'd say, as a whole. It's certainly not the best Joker we've seen, but he's definitely not the worst either. Now, the first point that I want to bring up is Jack Nicholson's performance. Nicholson's performance in this movie is good. I'd say I would say it's exceptional. I'd say it's good. I mean, he sort of has like the crazy movements you'd expect of the Joker. He has the voice that's quite good, and he also, you know, his movements are quite unpredictable, which I think is a good element for the Joker to have. But as I said before, I think maybe things like extra ticks that could be added in, you know, maybe more mannerisms could be added in, you know, maybe his voice could be changed slightly. I think that might boost him up. But for his performance, I'll give him a 3.5. Okay, so the next point I want to bring up is his appearance. Now, this is probably his strongest point, because he does look good. He looks like your stereotypical Joker. Cesar Romero had sort of the face paint. Nicholson's got basically the same face paint. However, there are two major differences that boost him up higher than Romero. First being his smile. Now, they actually use prosthetics to make that smile possible, and I think that's a really good feature to add. It shows dedication to the character and to the source material. And the other element would be changing the suit from pink to purple. Now, this seems like an odd detail, but when you think about the fact that purple is the colour of royalty, and the Joker is supposed to be the crown prince of crime. Now, I'm not sure if that's what they were actually going for, but that's how I thought about it, and I really appreciate it. So I'll give him a 4 out of 5 for appearance. Now, finally, is plot progression. Nicholson's Joker progresses the plot in a smooth way. He's sort of the main force of the movie, you know, because as Batman goes on, he fights both the mob and the Joker sort of ends up taking over the mob and then sort of becoming the biggest villain in Gotham, which I think is a very good element. I like the element of not just the protagonist having to come over stuff, but if the antagonist has to overcome things as well. I think that character development is very good. We don't get a lot of development in other Jokers like this, so I think that's a good element to add. However, I'm going to have to deduct minus points because Joker doesn't do as much in the movie as I maybe have liked to have done, and also there are such other good examples of the Joker, I just can't give him the highest of the highs. So I'll give this version of the Joker a 4 out of 5 for plot progression as well. So this gives Jack Nicholson's Joker an overall score of 11.5 out of 15, which is no mean feat whatsoever. No siree. It's higher than Cesar Romero, probably not the highest on the list, but it's probably going to be about halfway. Okay, so now here's the big one. Heath motherfucking Ledger. Now, I'm sure you've all seen The Dark Knight. I've spoken about it plenty of times, and I don't really need to go into it any further. But I would talk about Heath Ledger's Joker and how amazing it is at every possible opportunity I get. This Joker is so good. Oh, it's so good. It's just so fucking good. Everything about this Joker is just amazing. And I do seem a bit biased because I've watched The Dark Knight like 15,000 times and it's one of the best movies of all time. You know, and some of the other Jokers haven't appeared in the greatest of movies. But fuck you, it's my list. So first thing I wanted to talk about is his appearance. Now, obviously, he's got a super high, sophisticated makeup procedure going on. You know, there's no sort of like big prosthetics like Jack Nicholson. I mean, he's got the little scars, but they're not as big of a job. And what I really think makes his appearance so good is the fact that you can see that the makeup has been rushed and it's put on like rough. You can see the makeup all on his fingers and stuff, so you know that he's doing it himself. You know, he's not been like had his skin bleached white like in the comics. It's actually like just a guy who has no background and has just painted his face and committed to this identity. His suit's quite cool as well. I don't think his clothing's anything special, but I think the face paint is what makes it a 4 out of 5 for me. Plot progression. Now, the Joker in this movie is the most important character in the movie. For the simple reason that this version of the Joker has the best relationship with Batman that I've ever seen. I mean, we've seen in other movies, the Joker's just sort of like a kingpin and the Batman's trying to stop the Joker. In this movie, it's the Joker who's trying to stop Batman. The Joker doesn't want to take over the city. He doesn't want to be a massive mobster. He gets all the money, he fucking burns the shit. He doesn't care. What he wants is to prove that everyone is corruptible. At their core, everyone is bad. That's why he pushes people so far, because he just likes to prove that everyone is a terrible person at the end of the day. And the only way that Batman could properly deflect all of these criticisms is by taking the blame for Harvey Dent's murder. I think everything that the Joker does sets into motion the rest of the movie, so I've got to give it a 5 out of 5 for plot progression. A stunning, stunning character, truly. And performance. Oh, this is the big one here, the big one. Now, I'd be lying if I said I don't think Heath Ledger's performance as the Joker is one of the best performances in cinema history. It's the fact that he has such subtle tics that you don't even notice upon first viewing. It takes like 3 or 4 viewings, and seeing as I've watched about 20 times, I've picked up. He always seems to lick his lips. He fidgets a lot. He's really just, you can see that he's not deranged, but he's always got something going on in his head. It's his mannerisms and his sort of body, the way he acts that really makes him. The voice, I think he has a very good voice for the Joker.
Knife to her, laughing while he does it. He turns to me and he says, "Why so serious?"
And I think he has a very good energy for the Joker. He's quite high energy and wacky. He's always sort of in that same place. Nothing really seems to faze him. Like there's Jared Leto's Joker gets annoyed when somebody flirts with his girlfriend, or Jack Nicholson's Joker who's just sort of mood swings. Heath Ledger's Joker is always just super high on the energy spectrum. He's always doing stuff. He's always active. And I think that's sort of the way the Joker should be. So again, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5, which takes Heath Ledger's Joker to 14 out of 15. A score that, to be honest, I think you might as well just switch off the video here. Because, unless you want to find out where the other ones go. But he's probably going to be the best one on this list, in my opinion. It's either him or Joaquin Phoenix. We'll get onto him later. But first, we have to switch gears. Okay, so we've gone a bit different here, because we've got Jerome Valeska, also known as Jerome Joker, and he appears in the TV show Gotham. Some people love Gotham, a lot of people hate Gotham. I'm not really going to talk about my opinion on the show. But it is important to lay out the facts of the show because it affects how the character is portrayed. The show is very silly. I guess that's kind of the only way to put it. It's set for the backstory of Bruce Wayne, and it's set in like an alternate universe where he knew Selina Kyle and like there was a conspiracy behind his family's death and blah blah blah, as opposed to just happening. And they're trying to make like an interesting story about how Gotham became the city that it is. And the Joker they implement is a lot younger than is canon for the comics or for other movies. Because Jerome Valeska is the son of a woman who worked at a circus. And he ends up murdering his mum and then becoming a bit insane, killing a lot of people, dying, coming back to life. Some guy cuts his face off and then he staples it back. That happens in the show. Yeah. It's very odd to see, but, once again, we'll move on. His performance of the Joker is okay. I think he goes a bit over the top on the whole jokery jokerness. He's very he's almost overacting it at points, but I think his laugh is what's probably his biggest strength for this character. But I think it's just too, I know this sounds rich because we're talking about a comic book character, but it's almost too comic-y. It works in comic books because it's just written words and colourful images, but when it's in real life, it doesn't really have the same panache to it, one could say. His voice is okay. He doesn't really have the signature Joker suit either. He just kind of goes around and does what he wants. So I'll give him a 2 out of 5 for Jerome Valeska on his performance. Next up is appearance. Now he does have a very creepy appearance, especially later on in the show. However, that's mainly due to the fact that he stapled his face back on. That actually happened in a comic book before. So don't give that one to your kids. It makes him look scary, and the Joker is quite an intimidating character, so I think that's worked quite well. So I'll give him a 3 for his appearance. Finally, there's plot progression. Now, because this is like the backstory for Gotham, there's a lot of stuff going on, meaning that the Joker doesn't get as much screen time, because there's also people like the Penguin and the Riddler and Selina Kyle, and there's a whole backstory about Bruce Wayne trying to figure out who killed his parents, and there's a lot going on within the story. And especially it's more focused around Jim Gordon than Bruce Wayne as well. So as a whole, there's not really a lot of plot progression from the Joker specifically. The scenes he's in, he does have effect on certain episodes, but then he'll just not be mentioned in other episodes, and it's just kind of, because it's dying back and forth between other characters. So I'll give him a 1 for plot progression, because quite simply he's not in it enough for me to really give him a solid ranking. That gives Jerome Valeska a 6 out of 15. No. Okay, so I'm gonna actually rate him. Just for a bit of context, I'm like the 90% of people who watch this movie. I fucking hated Suicide Squad. I mean, I fucking hated it. It's one of the worst movies I've ever seen, and that is partly due to this fucking awful Joker. Just a terrible performance. It's cringy. It's predictable. It's over the top. It's just fucking terrible. And I don't know which bit to start with first. We'll start with appearance. What the fuck is that? Why have we made Joker into an emo fuckboy? Like, why is that? Why have we done that? Why is he wearing a purple leather jacket? I know he always wear purple. Why is he shirtless and wearing a purple leather jacket? He's not a gay motorcyclist, you know. He's the fucking Joker. And he's also got tattoos that say damaged and shit all over his body. That is the opposite of what's supposed to be about the Joker. The reason Heath Ledger's works so well is because, you know, he's doing the face paint himself so you can taste the range without saying it in your face. He's just saying, yeah, this guy's messed up. Look, 'cause he's got the words damaged written on him. It's just stupid. It's just a terrible idea. And it's just, no. I'm going to have to give Jared Leto's a 1 for appearance because just, why? Performance. I mean, why? Just why? I mean, when everyone heard that Jared Leto was going to be the Joker, we thought, oh, he can actually act quite well, and I thought, you know, he'd do a decent job. Fuck me, was I wrong. It's just, he's watched, like, the comics, he's watched, like, the animations, and then thought that was going to work in real life. It's not going to work. It doesn't work. His laugh is just so raspy and just awful. Instead of having, like, the tics like the Joker, or, you know, like, the uncontrollable laughter, like in Joaquin Phoenix's Joker that we'll talk about later, you know, that's also, like, a character development point. You know, and that's a reoccurring thing. Jared Leto's Joker is just, oh, I'm going to do weird stuff because I'm Joker. He makes a circle of knives and lies in the middle of it. I mean, it's a cool visual, but what the fuck's it for? What's it for? Where does the Joker do anything in this movie? The Joker should be motivated by chaos and anarchy and making a point that everyone is bad. Why in this one is he just whining over, you know, all he does is just whine, and his voice is just so whiny, and you know, the way he touches people, he's very gay, and it's just, I give it a 1. Obviously, you know, if I could give lower than a 1, I would. Finally, plot progression. I mean, you've taken one of the greatest villains in cinematic history and made him into a petulant child who just loves shiny things. There is no real purpose of him in this movie other than occasionally just coming in, saving Harley Quinn, and then almost immediately dying. And, you know, he's really pointless in this fucking movie. I don't know why they didn't make him into the villain. It makes no sense for how he's used in this movie. He's just whining about Harley Quinn constantly. You know, the Joker, the guy who's supposed to spread anarchy and fear, he's now just turned into just this whining baby. All he cares about is the money, kill people for talking about his girl, and blah, 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 blah. This is not what the Joker is. The Joker isn't fucking some drug kingpin in some TV show. He's not fucking Walter White. He has aspects to him that make him an interesting character. You've just turned him into just this money-hungry, just crazy psychopath. So again, on number 1, fuck Jared Leto's Joker. Fuck Suicide Squad. Just fuck it all. It's just such a terrible movie. Fuck the DCEU as a whole. Terrible movie, garbage. We need to move on because otherwise I'm going to start crying. So Jared Leto's Joker gets a 3 out of 15, just as it fucking deserves. So now we move on to the final live-action adaptation of the Joker, which is Joaquin Phoenix's Joker in the 2019 movie Joker. Now this movie is very different to all the other ones we've discussed because they're all about other characters, specifically Batman. However, this movie is solely about the Joker. Batman is never mentioned, and Bruce Wayne is only seen briefly within this movie. This gives us more time to understand the Joker's backstory. Some people had issue with the Joker's backstory because, you know, obviously in The Dark Knight, the Joker never had a backstory, and that's what people liked about the character. He was mysterious, he was seemingly unpredictable. But this sort of portrays the Joker as quite a sad character and almost as an anti-hero to some people. Now the movie itself has been criticised for having very strong connections to The King of Comedy and Taxi Driver and other movies like that. However, we're just going to be solely focusing on the Joker. Now I think Joaquin Phoenix is a perfect fit for the Joker because he's sort of for lack of a better term, strange.
Oh, I don't know.
I think his performance is probably up there with Heath Ledger's Joker. In terms, it's not necessarily about the voice, but just about sort of the slow descent into madness that we see him have throughout the movie. The suffering that he has just keeps impacting him and pushing him further and further down into this hole. The way he moves is also very sort of clown-like and creepy, and I think in this sort of context for a movie it works. Maybe not in something like the Suicide Squad, because again, that's sort of like he's just like a regular crime lord. But in this movie, Reject from Society, it works very well with the character. I'm going to give Joaquin Phoenix a 5 out of 5 for his performance, just because I think there wasn't really any major way he can improve upon his performance. Appearance. Now, this movie is about how he becomes the Joker, not him in his final form as the Joker, so he doesn't spend too much time looking like the Joker. I mean, the full scene where he goes full Joker would probably be the ending scene when he's on the talk show. And throughout the show, he sometimes has the clown makeup on, sometimes he doesn't. And so I think we can only mark him based on his actual Joker appearance, which doesn't appear all the time in the movie. However, when he does appear as the Joker, he does look quite creepy. I mean, I don't think his appearance is as good as Heath Ledger's, because his makeup is very roughly put on, sort of just rushed, and he doesn't really care too much. But the Joker's is very pristine and very well preserved, and I think that kind of takes away a bit. I think it would reflect him as a character if his makeup was sort of scratched and rushed. His outfit is sort of, the classic Joker, just the suit. But I think I'm going to give him a 3 out of 5 for his appearance during the movie. Now, obviously, plot progression is very different for this sort of Joker, because the movie that his Joker appears in is solely about him, not about someone like Batman, and he's just the antagonist. He's the protagonist of the story. So that sort of affects how he progresses the plot, because, of course, without the Joker in movies like Suicide Squad, the movie would be pretty much the same. I mean, the Joker in Dark Knight, the movie wouldn't be the same, but there would still be some story to tell. However, when there's no Joker in this movie, it's just not a movie. So I think that kind of affects it. But solely based on the fact that he is the sole important character, and he's like the main character in this movie, he's the one with the most importance. By following his story, I've got to give him a 5. So that takes Joaquin Phoenix's Joker up to a 13 out of 15. Pretty good, but again, it doesn't knock off the crown of Heath Ledger. In my opinion, Heath Ledger is still undefeated as the Joker. I think he has the best performance, not by much. I think Joaquin Phoenix did an excellent job, but I think maybe it's biased because The Dark Knight is, as I said, my favourite movie. If you have any disagreements with the way I've sorted out this list, you can put in the comments below. And also, if you think I was wrong on a certain person, except from Jared Leto, obviously, because the way I described him is just factual. Thank you all for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, leave a like. Also, make sure to subscribe. It does help. Check out another one of my videos. I do a lot more movie stuff on the channel. And yeah, subscribe and goodbye.